Welcome to Milk Market Tidbit for the July cold storage report that USDA released yesterday afternoon. This is Dr. Lawrence Jones with Farm Institute, and I'm recording this on Saturday, August the 24th. So the cold storage report is the second report we get for a month, and then that's going to be followed up with the dairy products report. As a reminder for what we did last month on this is one of the reasons we like the cold storage report. It gives us the residual number that we use for this calculation. Remember that any cheese less than 30 days of age is considered fresh cheese, and so it may not either be sold on the spot market yet or included in this cold storage report. So it's kind of a never never land. The biggest part of the reports that are coming out of USDA now are the revisions, and it's amazing how much they are revising things. And so if we look at the June numbers, they were revised down in cold storage, whereas the butter numbers were actually revised up a little bit. So as soon as these revisions hit, our typical numbers actually get calculated from those. So those are reflections of that. And this is where the numbers actually came in. We drew down the cold storage report just a little bit less for cheese than we thought we would. I had it about 19.6 million coming down, and only came down about 10.1. And butter, decreased around 23 million, and that was about where we had it. StoneX numbers are based on year over year. They kind of missed the cold storage number, but don't consider that a bad thing, because I think part of what's going on right now is a significant different paradigm in cheese cold storage than we have historically. I'll try to show that a little bit, but I'll probably discuss it a lot more in my Sunday podcast. And they had the butter stocks coming down just as we did in the typical. What I read out of this is I believe that July cheese disappearance may be a little bit less than June. So that would be kind of a bearish thing. But the June disappearance was probably much, much better than we thought it was, because remember, this was like a minus 2 million, and now it's minus 17. So demand must have been pretty good in June, and it carried through, but probably to a lesser extent in July. At the same time, in the analysis of the cold storage report from StoneX, so what they looked at it, and they suggest that we might be headed towards 220 blocks in September, given how much this was pulled down. And you can read this, but I'm not sure I'm quite there, because I think demand may have been coming down a little bit. Where they look at it is, being 28 million less than they originally expected. This is the class 3 production from the Federal Milk Marketing Order. And all I look for in this is, has our total class 3 gone up, gone down, or changed significantly? And really it hadn't changed very much from last month. The other thing we always want to look at is exports. Are we going to be exporting a lot of cheese? We had 4 months of really good exports, but right now our July cheese price was $1.97. The world price is $1.94, so that's not looking quite so good. So here are the cheese stocks. My program kind of looks for, are there two different linear regressions that we ought to be looking at, and it split it right here in 2022, which is where a lot of things have been splitting. And so once we did that, the actual cheese stocks came in pretty close to where we expected it to be. American cheese is actually 56% of the total, and it's doing the same thing. Last year was actually considered a little bit of an outlier, even from this revised linear regression, but it wasn't too far off from where we expected it to be. The other major component is other cheeses. That came in right where we expected it to be. Not a big change there, but again, we increased up to a point, and now we're decreasing, and that seems to be a general theme of a lot of the data in the industry right now. Butter stocks look a little bit strange, because we increased pretty significantly through July of 2021, but then all of a sudden we pulled down, and now we're increasing again a little bit. So that came in about where we expected it to be. But butter stocks are coming up a little bit where they've been in the last recent times, but they're not as high as they were, 4 or 5 years ago. So this was a busy week. This was the last report with the cold storage report. And then next week is going to be pretty quiet with just the National Dairy Sales Report and the egg prices before we go into a shortened week here.